Welcome, everybody, back to the third episode of Life on the Deck podcast. We're going to discuss the NFL draft as well as the third and fourth installments of The Last Dance. What did you guys think of the NFL draft for the last 3 days?
What'd you think, Greg?
Good evening, fellas. How you doing?
What's up, buddy?
What's going on? How we doing? How's life on the deck today?
Life is good. Life is good. A little rainy, but, we're here. We're alive. We're well. Life is good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Greg, as Chad said, what was your takeaways on the draft?
The draft. I've been a diehard Redskin fan all my life, but, I thought we had an okay draft. I thought the Ravens killed it. I thought the Packers were terrible, but
They were.
the Packers. The Packers. Packers.
Being a Packers stockholder, it was a very hard draft to watch. I'm not quite sure what the general manager was trying to do, maybe light a fire under Aaron Rodgers, but I would have to say Jordan Love going in the first round, I think with the 26th pick, was probably the stunningest pick of the NFL draft this year.
What did you guys think about let's start at the top. What did you guys think about Roger Goodell and kind of the setup?
Well, I don't know.
Thought it was
He
kind of cool.
micromanaged the whole thing, though. Did he
Yeah,
not?
he did. It probably shows how he runs the entire football league. We got a little Last Dance inside take on how he runs the NFL.
What did you guys think in terms of what do you guys think in terms of setup? Ever since we've been kids, we've been used to seeing the draft from a perspective of, everything's on TV in the green room, and those guys are sitting there waiting for the number to get called. The last decade or so, they've really tried hard to get the crowd involved, and it was so completely different, such a sign of the times. But what were some of the things you guys like? Obviously, there was differences. What do you guys like about the whole thing?
I like the fact I'll go from a couple angles, just because I think that it's only fair. So if you look, we'll go from the coaches' perspectives. You got to see the coaches around their families. You got to see them making picks and having the split screens, talking to the general managers over telephone, and you got to see the kids kind of hanging on and running around them. We look at those guys, and we don't really see them as family men. We see them just as businessmen and guys that lead, other gentlemen at that level. But for them to have their kids around kind of shows, Tim, for you, what you and I do as head coaches, and obviously Greg is an assistant, like we do give up a lot of time with our kids. We miss a lot of things, for me it was dance recitals and piano recitals and stuff like that. So we do miss a lot of time. And it was kind of cool to see guys at that level who do miss more time than we do actually and able to spend it with their loved ones and their kids. But I also go back to the same thing when you go to the living rooms. I mean, I think it was awesome to see the families' living rooms, the families' reactions in the living rooms a lot better than the green room. I mean, look at Riverboat. Speaking of the Redskins, look at Riverboat. I mean, Chase Young.
The family was helping them.
Yeah, I mean, the telephone call comes in from the coach to Chase, and he goes, "Put your dad on the phone." And, it says to the dad, "Hey, tell your son he's a Washington Redskin." I mean, we don't have that in the green room. That's about as personal as you can get, which is pretty sweet. So,
well, you mentioned about the family part. My first couple years as a head coach, you're trying to balance everything, and you're trying to be successful, and you're trying to do the things that you always kind of tell yourself when it's your time. I'm going to do this, and my teams are going to do this, and I think we're all probably guilty sometimes of our families. I don't want to say taking a backseat, but it's hard on them. I've tried real hard in the last couple of years to involve. My kids have grown up with me as a football coach. My son is now 14 and coming into the program in the fall. My daughter's now 12. Ever since she was 6 or 7, she's known her dad in this role, and she's kind of known the family life of coaching. And I think we do a much better job at Williamsport High with our program. Not our program, but the rest of the athletic programs. I know it's something that it's big that our athletic administration and administration of our school is big on is, having our families present. I know, like, obviously game night is awesome. Friday nights are cool, but one of the best nights for me is those team dinners on Thursday night after practice. It's been a long, hard week. We've been, trying to get ready and trying to get it really is a culmination out of the weekend into where we're headed. And, a lot of, we really open it up. We've got parents there. We've got, my family's there. It's always one of the best moments is kind of like be able to give my daughter a hug, at the team dinner and, just because maybe I'm not always there for her through the week like I should be. And,
Right.
But God bless them,
Yeah, I mean, they give up a lot. I mean, my two girls give up a lot. I know that. I mean, there's more FaceTimes and text messages and that type of stuff. I mean, my oldest now has a phone, so I can kind of text her and have more of a relationship. It's not one that you really want, but it's the one that's a little bit closer than usual. So, but it is tough. I mean, they do. I know we played a little Zach Brown earlier, but the last but not least song is kind of one I tie into my kids. They are last. A lot of times they're not least, but they're definitely last, especially during the 120 days that I have it during basketball season.
Well, and what I thought was pretty cool, and I think it was the guy who was the head coach of the Dolphins. Is that Brian Flores? Is that his name? I guess it could be mistaken. And he's got his two sons sitting there. He's got his L-shaped desk and his son sitting there. And, he's sitting there making his faces and different things he's doing. I thought that was pretty cool. Again, they get to share that moment for sure.
Absolutely.
And we were all texting back and forth during the Riverboat Ron, scenario where, the call comes in and, almost talk to your dad. And that was, as a Redskin fan, I don't think we've had that for quite a while from the leadership. So it's pretty cool to kind of get that centered culture piece back. So looking forward to.
I was going to say your culture's changed already. I can see that, and being an NFC fan, it's not really one thing I like to see, but that's okay. I mean, that's just part of the gig and how it goes with it. But I was talking with Greg. I was talking with. They could be.
No,
they very well could be. I mean,
it's okay though. I mean, we're rebuilding.
Here's my take on the Redskins, though. I mean, Greg, you and I were talking a little earlier. I would have taken Tua in the 2 slot.
That was
winner.
I mean, am I in the minority? Is Haskins the answer to quarterback? Tim, what's your take? I mean, I don't know. I think it was a stretch to take him where we took him last year.
For me personally, I think the jury's still out. I don't know that last year was the best scenario for the Redskins, period. Gruden, everyone knew, was basically a lame duck coach unless they started the year 5-0 or some scenario like that. Obviously, we made the move to Haskins, and he dealt with some injuries and some up and down things. Big Trent Williams getting traded away, I know that became a toxic situation and scenario. I think it's going to hurt us. I don't know if it sounds like we got some, obviously we put some pieces in place on defense with guys like Young, and we got some speedsters on offense, some skill guys. I don't know if we're there yet, and we'll see what happens with Haskins. I think the whole thing with Tua is the jury was out with, it sounded like a lot of people was very divided. You had some people said, look, like watching Tua work out the last couple of weeks, you got the QB guru guys like Trent Dilfer. They're like, he's as smooth as anything the league's seen in a long, long time. So I don't know. Is Tua going to go? Is Miami ready to have a scenario where Tua can kind of march in and do what he does well and win? I don't think so.
I thought Miami had a phenomenal draft.
I thought they drafted well too. Yeah.
I think they were rated an A. I think Mel Kiper gave them an A or an A- or something like that.
Let's talk about. Let's talk about the Ravens. I know I root for the Ravens kind of part-time, but I thought the Ravens, they're consistent, they're smart, they take safe picks, they go after the needs. Some teams just go off the ball. Like the Oakland Raiders, they're off the wall. Like I don't know what they're trying to do, but the Ravens stay consistent every single year. I know Doug Levine's watching. I know he loves his Ravens. I took a shout out to him earlier.
Well, Chris Downs, who's also our boy soccer coach at Williamsport High is, one of my best friends, a dear friend, and he and I were talking back and forth. He's a huge Ravens fan. His brother Brad works for the organization, is in a leadership type role. So, we're all the time talking Ravens. And Chris and I were texting back and forth a little bit Thursday night, and he said, you got to respect what they do. He goes, Ozzie Newsome hands over the reins to his second in charge. You got an owner, Steve Bisciotti, who is one of these guys that is not hands-on, but his presence is always there within the organization. That you talk about leadership, there's a guy that, he seems like he maybe got a little Jersey Mafia in him. We don't know, but, you got to respect what they do. And again, I think they had a phenomenal draft as well.
So what about
like Ozzie never stepped down?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
are they better without it? Are they better? Okay, so here we go. The elephant in the room. We have yet to talk about it. We didn't talk about it much last week because we were talking basketball. It's in the background. All right, let's talk about Tampa Bay. What did they do? What have they not done? Let's talk about Tom Brady. Let's talk about Gronk. Let's talk.
Well, it's sexy, isn't it? But did you guys see the meme floating around the internet that Belichick's sitting in a room around people drinking some orange juice, and it says, basically everybody thinks I'm an idiot, but I just got a third-round pick for somebody who's retired. Bill Walsh is one of my coaching heroes, and not just because he's Super Bowl champion, but his standards of performance and the way that he wanted to run his organization. And one of his big things was, as a general manager running organization, he's one of these guys that there's only been a handful of guys that have been successful as a GM and a head coach, and he's been one of them in the last, and it's really not even the modern era football, but the last 30, 40 years, that they don't want to have a guy on their team in their twilight years. I mean, remember, he traded away Montana. He traded away Ronnie Lott in San Francisco. They got rid of Roger Craig. They got rid of all those guys and just kept plugging away, just kept punching the new numbers in. So I don't know. Are they going to be able to play defense? Are they going to be able to protect him? What do you think, Chad?
I mean, they gave up 30 points a game last year. Did they help them on defense at all?
Defensively, they're a sieve. I mean, you look back at some of the numbers and just listen to some of the quote-unquote experts talk. I mean, offensively, it might be awesome to watch. I mean,
yeah.
You signed Gronk, and then a day later you signed the train wreck in Antonio Brown. I mean,
is he there? Has that been official yet? I don't know.
He signed for like $8 million a year.
But I haven't heard it anywhere else.
I'm going by Adam Schefter on that one.
Yeah, we'll stick with Shefty. I trust Shefty.
But I mean, I just don't know. And I know Bruce Arians is like for your world. I understand you guys are gonna understand the more intricacies of an offense at the football level. But he does some really cool stuff. He really doesn't care what people think, and he's gonna let the offense. I mean, think about this: Byron Leftwich is the offensive coordinator. Am I right?
Correct. Absolutely. Because it was his house that Brady thought he was walking into there the other night when he made a mistake that obviously got around.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that was his?
He was looking for Leftwich's house.
He was looking for Leftwich's house. He walked in the wrong house. I mean, that just kind of shows you what Tampa Bay, or however they're calling it now, instead of Tampa Bay, what he's kind of like turning himself into down there.
Did he get fined? What happened there?
He probably signed a couple autographs and got let off.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple selfies,
Well, hey, let's go back and talk about Arians for a second.
You're a big Bruce Arians fan.
I am. Obviously.
Did you read his book?
Yeah, a couple times. Obviously, what they do at the pro level doesn't translate to the high school level, and I think you could say that across all different sports, all different things. But some of his main philosophies about, it's attacking mindset. His line in the NFL football life is one of the best series out there, and I think his is one of the best. If they've done 50 of them, his is one of the top 5. He talks about his thing, no risk it, no biscuit. He definitely has a kind of cavalier attitude in regards to the profession, and in a coaching profession, you're not going to necessarily treat not everybody's going to love you. You do what you know how to do, and you let the chips fall where they may. Obviously, our high school situation is a little bit different, but he's a guy that it doesn't matter where he's been. He hasn't always been the head always hasn't been always been the head guy, but other than maybe his last year or two in Arizona, he's won everywhere. His method works. You know, he talks a lot about, you know, he was a head coach at Temple in the early '80s, and the big deal on the East Coast in the early '80s was Pitt, if you remember.
Yep.
Tony Dorsett,
100%.
Dan Marino, and he talked about
Yep.
obviously being in Pennsylvania, and they wanted to compete with Pitt, and he talks about how his teams, that was their big mindset thing. I know there's a big rivalry between Virginia Tech, football wise, and you know, you walk in the football facility at Virginia, and one of the things they talk about is, you know, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and the last thing is we're going to own the state of Virginia. We're going to beat Virginia Tech. They finally got a chance to do that this year, and it was a big step for their program. Also, a big Bronco Mendenhall fan, by the way, too. But
BYU, he won a lot of games there.
All of this with Bruce Arians, this is so Bruce Arians. This is, you know, I'm 60, maybe 70 years old. I ain't going to be around forever. You know, I'm going to go out with, you know, all my might behind me with my guns blazing. No risk it, no biscuit, baby.
I agree with that. I think
The
he
last
just kind of
dance.
– yeah, I mean, honestly, I think, you know, there's a possibility that, you know, we're going to watch a Last Dance kind of like fold out live a little bit, you know. I don't see Gronk playing much past a year or two. I know Tom Brady signed that contract, but I really don't see him sticking it out the entire life of it. You know, how old is he now? 3?
I think that's right.
42, something like that. I mean, come on.
He was drafted out of New England
at least.
after the 2000 season. So
Drafted out of New England.
What's that?
He went to Michigan, not New England.
Well, he was drafted to New England out of Michigan, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I mean, his body's gonna feel a little bit different. I mean, and you know, I don't care what sport you're playing, your body hurts a little bit different as you get a little older. So.
And he doesn't have the same offensive line he had in New England either. So that's another whole thing about this whole mess.
Yeah, they really protected him in New England, and you know, Belichick did a pretty good job of setting that thing up so he didn't get blindsided too much. I mean, how many times do you watch a New England game and the dude looks like he did when he came out for the starting lineups? His uniform looked the exact same color, and you know, there was no grass stains, there was no mud, there was nothing on him in the fourth quarter in the final drive. So, you know, being a Packers guy, you look at Aaron Rodgers, his uniform's completely dirty by like the third drive because our offensive line was tragic. I mean, I don't know how many times we started the game just getting, you know, pummeled in our own end zone.
So can we agree, you know, the Ravens had a great draft. What about the Cleveland Browns? You know, they had a down year, but they bounced back a little bit. You know, your Packers, Chad, I'm sorry. That was the worst, you know. They didn't even say anything to Aaron Rodgers about it. That's the worst part.
They didn't talk to him. I was looking at some numbers before we came on air just to I wanted to make sure I got this right. But there's 255 picks in the NFL draft. 64 were wide receivers. And my Pack Attack took 0.
Yeah.
Not one wide receiver to throw at. That's crazy. We got a tight end, though.
Well, in Chad,
the guy from Boston College, I believe. The running back from Boston College, they had like 7,000 yards on being drafted, but still.
Yeah, he's a solid talent. But how do you take a team, Chad, that was, 13?
Aaron Jones, though.
There was 13-3 last year, right? 13-3.
13-3.
How do you take a team, you know, new coach, different energy? Obviously, the McCarthy era was over. How do you do that? Like, where is, you know, Ron Wolf would have stabbed somebody in the neck.
He would have lost his mind. I mean, here's the take that I look at this as I watch 3 days unfold. Offensively, Aaron is a special talent. He's a once-in-a-lifetime guy. Unfortunately, you know, at Green Bay, we've had Brett Favre, 2 Aaron Rodgers. We've had back-to-back Hall of Famers. Not many organizations can say that. Now, with that being said, we look like the San Francisco 49ers were an NFL team, and we were a JUCO team on defense in the NFC title game. I mean, they ran through us like we were not even a brick wall. Like, you know, we weren't even a wood wall. They just completely ran through this wall of water the whole game, and we didn't get like anybody really solid on defense, and we didn't get the guys that we need. I mean, I would have gone and gotten somebody like a BJ Raji, you know, a defensive lineman of some kind that's going to clog up the middle for you. Maybe a couple linebackers to replace what you lost. I mean, our leading tackle guy, I think it's Blake Martinez. He's gone. He's with the Eagles, I think. He left and went with the Eagles. I mean, I thought we had some pieces on that side of the football that I would have probably paid more attention to and gotten a wide receiver in there somewhere.
What
Hey Maggie, I'm on the porch. Look at it. It's beautiful.
What you know, obviously, as we talked about coming into this episode and what we were going to discuss, you know, and there's that quote there that, you know, as an organization standpoint, you see it. Obviously, it's a big thing in the NFL. I think this originally comes from Belichick. You know, Chad, you and I were discussing the HBO 24/7 series a little bit before we went live, and how they had the college series with the Florida Gators and Dan Mullen, the Washington State Cougars, Mike Leach, the James Franklin one with Penn State, and Arizona State and Herm.
Yep.
And I remember, and I think when I pulled that image to throw the social media post up, I remember that seeing that on the, you know, in that main recruiting room, like the signing day thing with Penn State. We are here to build a team, not necessarily collect talent. And obviously, our high school situations are different. Where, you know, we can't recruit. We don't. You know, we're not out there fighting people over kids. We recruit our hallways. You know, we want the right kids involved in the scenario. You know, one of the things we do get to recruit is our staffs. You know, we're only
100%.
as good as the adults that we work with, and, you know, our kids are only as good as. I know with basketball, you have 3 or 4 coaches. Football, we've got about 10, and every single, you know, you want to define roles and everything. But for me, it all starts with communication, and the fact that Aaron Rodgers had no idea that this was going on. How is that a complete departure from what happened in Philadelphia, where they took Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz, who, in my opinion, is a top 3 quarterback in the league when he's healthy. If you look at the skills,
Top 3?
He's a top 3 quarter. Look
Top
at the season.
3?
Look at the season that he had in top 3. Look at the season he had in 2017 before he gets hurt. The role
Where's
he
Nick
was
Foles when you need him?
obviously he has to stay healthy, but the kid can deal. The kid can
Top
dish.
3?
Talk to Doug Peterson, man. See what he. Why don't you give Doug a call and see what he tell you?
You got Doug's number. I'll call him.
I'll send it to you. But anyway, completely different scenarios. What does it say about culture?
I think the misnomer. I think Aaron Rodgers truly is a misunderstood person. I think he doesn't trust a lot of people. When you're pretty much told you're going to be the number 1 pick overall in the draft, and you drop to 24 and end up going to Green Bay, which is going to fall into his lap as a Hall of Famer. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's set numbers and records that, you know, nobody else has touched and probably not going to touch. But when you look at him and you start thinking about the communication on any of it, is just bogus to me. I mean, he should have been not involved in all the picks, but he should at least known they were going to take a quarterback. I mean, if they're trying to light up, I mean, David Bakhtiari, he's one of my favorite Packers to watch. I mean, not only from his hanging out at the, the Milwaukee Bucks games on the sideline, but, kind of being around the locker room when you get to see the behind the scenes stuff that I follow. He said that this just lit a fire under Aaron, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see how he reacts moving forward. I mean, he's kind of scary when he's locked in. I would hate to see him fired up and locked in, because he might try to prove the entire organization wrong at this point. And honestly, I won't complain in Sundays in September, October, November if he's trying to prove people wrong. So
no.
Hey, but they got A-Rod and they got J-Lo now. We're good.
A-Rod and J-Lo, and we're doing just fine up there in Lambeau Field.
Old cheeseheads.
Here's the one thing that we talked about a little bit, Tim, that to go off of your talk with Penn State situation. You know, in 1980, Herb Brooks, and I kind of threw it up on Twitter earlier today, but, Herb Brooks it's not about the best ones, Craig. It's about the right ones to his assistant coach. And I think that's misunderstood a lot, and I know in my time when I was a college coach and recruited, we would go watch AAU tournaments, and there was some just talent, like just freak talent. But if it didn't do all this stuff socially, academically, the way they carried themselves from a communication perspective. It didn't matter. They could go score 2,000 points, but if they didn't do all the other stuff, it was going to be a locker room headache. And I tend to look at and take stuff from every sport, as I was telling you, and try to figure out how I can put it into South basketball. And watching the draft is pretty impressive from that perspective, because you do get to see which ones have hurt themselves by being limited teammates, right?
Mm-hmm.
And off the field issues and social media issues. It is pretty interesting to look at all that stuff and say, wow, that killed so-and-so. And when we talk about cutting kids at school or, limiting roster size, these guys are talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars that they're losing out on when they don't get drafted in certain locations. So every decision that we make when I talk to my guys at school is, it might not affect you in a fiduciary role like the guys on television, but in essence is a fiduciary role, because it's going to depend what colleges recruit you. And that's the difference between the college scholarship and paying to go to school. And that's a huge difference when you talk loans.
Well, and for the people that don't believe that, the people that believe that's coach speak or whatever, they're wrong. I mean, I had the opportunity over the last couple of years to meet with a lot of coaches and have a lot of these type of conversations, and you can very quickly understand at college football, those schools, those programs which do a good job of developing their players, sending guys to the next level, also win a lot of games, and they don't talk about that stuff. Had the opportunity, obviously with Taquan's situation, to meet Dabo Swinney a couple of times. And the first time we were down in South Carolina, we were sitting in his office for 90 minutes, and we didn't talk about football one time. The amount of – and you could tell that they were screening him. They were screening us in Williamsport. The amount of work that they put in to find out as much about him as a prospect is anything. And for me, that's not a coincidence. I remember one of the schools that did a really good job recruiting him as well was the University of Virginia, who I remember their receiver coach, Marcus Hagans, who was quarterback back in the day. Back in the day, heck of an athlete. And
I remember
when he first came to the school, and we were having a discussion about our kids and about him, and it was just different, the things he was talking about. And that's a school coming off of, I think at the time was like a 2-9 season. They're just looking to build. They're looking to get athletes and looking to build their program. And it's there is no shortcut. Nick Saban is very blunt about it. He's very upfront about it. Because he can be, but there is lots of ways to skin that cat. But it really comes down to, is this kid accountable? In everything that they do, because otherwise everybody knows there's those guys in Williamsport, those guys in South Hagerstown, those guys. Every high school in the country has those guys over the years that can point back and go, that guy is a woulda, coulda, shoulda, that just didn't make it. And lots of times it come down to character.
Absolutely.
There's a great book, and I'm not much of a reader. I've become more of a reader since I've been a head coach and thinking about these things. There's a great book called The Champions Class. This guy had he looked at every winning sports program, basically at the professional level. He looked at the Chicago Bulls, of the Last Dance Bulls. He looked at, the All Blacks rugby teams. He looked at NFL, and he was trying to come up with what makes these teams great. Is it a great coach? Not all the time. Is it just all the talent in the world? Not all the time. Is it an organization which backs them with every single thing that they want? No. And it's a great case study. What really comes down to, the main ingredient is the character of the people that lead the team. And not necessarily, again, this isn't about coaches. This is about the kids. The character and the quality of the leadership of the team.
Right. And that gets lost in translation a lot. It really, we deal with minors, so it's a little bit different. But when you get to the varsity level and you got guys that, at the beginning of every season, I'm sure you do the similar thing. And at the parent meetings and stuff, you raise your hand. You'd say, hey, raise your hand if you want to play college basketball. I don't know if you ask the same question. You'll
I
play
talk to
college
the kids
football.
about that all the time. Yep.
You ask them that, and everybody's hand goes up. Well, what they don't understand, and for you and I, we are able to live this a little bit, and some of the people that are listening, they've lived it as well. You're talking 6 a.m. lifts.
Mhm.
You're talking practices at 5:30 when it's dark, and for us, it's the middle of winter time, and you're walking to the
Mhm.
gymnasium to get
Mhm.
ready, and
A thousand
you
other
talk about
things you could be doing.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're talking study hall, you're talking eating rate, you're talking Friday nights. You're not going out because guess what? On Saturday at 4 o'clock, you got a tip, and you can't misbehave on Friday night. You got to have everything ready to rock. So, it's all the little things that I don't think kids quite understand what it takes to get to the next level. And I'll pick on Taekwon only because he's one that we've talked pretty heavily about, and he's at a level that's totally different than the majority of the people in Washington County. But his entire life changed the moment he stepped on that campus because they own. You talk to them probably a lot more than most. They probably own what 22 hours of his day. I mean, they're going to tell him when he's
They
sleeping. They're going to tell him when
they
he's hitting up. I mean, they own
they
everything.
I remember. Yeah, no, they own him, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Yep.
It's definitely it's a little bit of a transactional relationship.
Oh, I'm sure.
I, personally speaking, Ryan McDonald, who played football in women's sport
Yep.
and was a starting center at Maryland, when he got back, he said, we eat a 12-inch sub for a midnight snack. Like, I don't eat that for dinner some nights because I can't handle it. That's crazy.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know. Here's one talk. I don't know if you guys have had this or have heard this one. So I draw up on a whiteboard and I'll break out 24 hours in a day. Okay. So let's just for conversation say we go to school. I know it's 7.5 hours is what we're charted. So we'll just say 8 hours for conversation. Okay. So you're 8 hours at school, 8 hours of sleep. That's what they're supposed to get. We know they don't get that, but that's what they're supposed to get. So we're at 16 hours in a day. We still got 8 hours to go. So we'll take 2 hours to lift in some type of workout. Now you're down to 6 hours. You got 2 hours of homework. You're taking another hour for dinner. There's 3 hours still in the day that they can do anything they truly want to do. I mean, you're talking Fortnite, 2K, whatever they want to get into, hang out with their girlfriend, go see a movie. And at the end of the week, you're giving them 3 hours. That's 15 hours a week that they still have as free time. And that's if they do all the work, all the sleep, all the food, all the workouts, and they still got time. And they until you break it out for them, the one I get all the time is, well, Coach, I didn't have time. How did you not have time? You slept for 4 hours because I saw you on Snapchat at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, I know you're up. Why didn't you have time? Because it's priorities. And the ones I have those conversations with usually are not the guys that are putting on my uniform because I had those conversations at freshman and sophomore year. So by the time they get to me, they've already chosen this is not the route they want to go.
Yeah, we ask our kids to. My family's back. We ask our kids to. We ask our kids to match our commitment. Everybody in this whole process is going to commit and do and going to work really, really hard. And great things will happen and good things will happen to you if you match that commitment. Thank you, dear.
Totally agree.
Okay, so we got about 15 minutes left before the start of the last dance. Let's talk. I know episode 3 is about the man, Dennis Rodman. I'm looking forward to it myself. I think we're gonna get a little more insight tonight into the actual truth of what went on behind the scenes. But we'll see how much they edit and see what they take out. I think tonight's gonna be fun.
I think Dennis is a misunderstood guy. I think, our generation kind of lived with him a little bit differently. What I mean by that is as we were growing up, he's part of the bad boys and he was just the dirt dude. Like he did all the little stuff for those guys. And then, he goes to San Antonio and he starts coloring his hair and people are kind of wondering who the heck this guy is. Right. And then he goes to the Bulls and now he's wearing dresses and marrying Madonna. So, and to the kids generation that we coach, he's just the guy with North Korea connections that goes over and tries to like and fences, I mean, so there's a whole bunch of different stuff here in 20 plus years on how we look at this guy.
For me, Rodman is the guy that is the epitome of. Obviously, he was different. Is a different guy. You talked a little bit about North Korea. Our kids know him as Coach White.
Ambassador.
I'm playing 2K with my son yesterday, and I'm
playing. He was the only one that could get in.
Yeah, I know. I was playing 2K with the 97 Bulls the other day, and of course Rodman's got his hair that way, and my 14-year-old son is like, "Dad, what the heck?" Dennis to me is the epitome of the ultimate team guy who could literally flip the switch. I know we talked about Michael; he can flip the switch, but Dennis is that guy that could, when it was time to tip off, and you walked inside those lines and got in front of a crowd, he wasn't worrying about what lady he was dating or what he was doing. He was worried about winning, and he would do the ultimate Dennis Rodman clip is that one of him coming across the court and diving literally head first into no man's land in a crowd. It didn't care, would gladly put himself out there for the sake of the team.
And that's the greatest picture. He's flat. Like he's just laying there flat out with a basketball in his hand. Like how many times do you see that?
Well,
Dennis averaged 20 and 15 for the Pistons. He didn't have to do anything else. He was good. I mean, he was an all-star. He was going to be a Hall of Famer. But, he only went to the Bulls to win championships, I think, And he said that before.
Here's the one. I did a little research just to kind of be goofy because I wanted to kind of see. So Dennis goes NAIA, Southeast Oklahoma State. He's really truly known as the glue guy, right? And the guy that does all the things. Like you said, he averaged 20 and 15. Or 20 and 10. Nobody really knows that.
Byron Mouton.
Pulling it up. Exactly.
Byron Mouton.
The Byron Mouton.
Yes.
Sorry, I had to. The glue.
Do you want to take a wild guess at how many points he scored in college?
8.
Remember, he's a glue guy in the league. Okay, glue guy in the league.
I'm gonna say 26.
He scored 2,500 points in college and has 1,500 rebounds. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe 26 a game. Yeah.
Who can do that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's not a lot of guys in any level of college basketball that put up those type of statistics that then they go into the league and they're known as a defensive stopper.
Who was the coach? Obviously, Michael Jordan has a tremendous amount of affection for. Who was the guy that coached the Dream Team? Was the coach of the Bad Boys there in Detroit? What was his name?
Oh man,
name escapes me.
Chuck Daly.
Chuck Daly passed away too early to cancer.
Yeah.
Michael talks about other than Jackson that like Chuck Daly was his dude. Who was the guy that was the coach in San Antonio when Dennis was there?
I don't know. Was it Popovich earlier? Was he still?
I don't think he was
there
yet. I don't think he was there yet.
He might have been an assistant. I don't really know who that was. We're going to learn tonight that Michael hated Phil Jackson. So,
really?
Yeah, he did. So Michael was actually a huge Doug Collins guy. Loved Doug. Okay.
Really?
And then,
okay. Standing.
And Phil Jackson.
Standing.
Was the assistant coach to Doug. So when they fired Doug and bumped him up, the first call Phil had to make was to Michael to like smooth stuff over.
Right.
And Scotty will tell you, Phil did everything for Jordan, and that's the difference. It was Jordan's program / organization, whatever you want to call it, early. When Phil made it, it then became the Bulls. Which is a huge difference to me.
Wow.
And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Because I know you can see like ESPN gives you like, here's the 5-minute tidbit. I heard that one today, which I thought was kind of cool.
No, that's great. Doug Collins got another opportunity to run a team. Was it in Detroit later in the mid to late 90s? Doug Collins.
Didn't he coach the 76ers?
He was with the 76ers for a little bit, I think. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
And obviously, we grew up watching as kids, watching Chad play, or Chris play at Duke, and then who was the one that won the I'm also thinking about the Barry guys, the one that won the dunk contest the one year growing up.
You talking about Rick Barry's kids? You had
Rick,
Drew
yeah,
Barry and then those
Rick
guys.
Barry,
Yeah.
They're Georgia Tech guys, though.
Yeah, he's
Right?
the one that shot the foul shots underhanded. He did the granny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shot like
Yes.
90% in the league. Great. His son did that in college, Division I college a couple years ago. That's how he shot his foul shots in NCAA games. That's how he was taught.
Yeah. I mean, no, tonight will be fun, you know. It'll be good.
Like, have either of you guys watched the Bad Boys 30 for 30 or the Rodman 30 for 30 that's been out by chance?
Yeah, I mean, when those 30 for 30s hit, that's like a holiday in my house. The Bad Boys one was great. I mean, obviously, it shows poor Isaiah Thomas. He's a certain kind of special. But I just, again, we love nuance. We love behind the scenes and just the culture of that team and how one of my favorite stories in that one is they traded. Who did they trade the season that they wanted? They made a late trade and they pushed somebody out.
Adrian Dantley from DeMatha.
Yes, they pushed out Dantley because he just did not fit.
And I want to say they got Mahorn, right? Didn't they get Rick Mahorn for Dantley?
Yes.
And you're going to go with the story of Lambier when Rick Mahorn came in out of weight and overweight, out of shape, and was kind of, a slug. And Lambier had to sit him down and say, "That's not how we do business here, son. Here's how we do business here."
I think we talked about it the first night that, great teams are player-led and the players hold the accountability. And again, for me, and I know you're going to do the same thing tonight. We both did it last Sunday. I'm sure Greg did as well, where we're kind of taking notes on some things and how we can apply this to our daily lives and the organizations we're blessed to run. And, again, it doesn't matter whether you're the Bad Boys or you're the Bulls or you're the New England Patriots or you're the New York Yankees. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what the sport is. There are certain things that have to happen. And that's, it's one of the reasons we love sports.
Greg, what are you taking from tonight? What do you think it's going to be? You got Rodman, you got Phil Jackson, you got a little bit of the Jordan rules tonight.
I'm looking forward to the Rodman part of it. The truth, a little bit of the truth to come out. I was younger than you guys. I was more, 8, 9, 10 years old. You all were a little older than me. And I thought it was such a cohesive unit. I loved them, but I thought they were such a great team. I didn't realize as much effort that went into making them who they were. And that's the part that, I've been interested in.
I'll be honest with you. When they got Rodman, it was kind of one of those, like, what are you doing moments as a kid? Because the only thing I knew about Dennis Rodman, and both of you guys are going to laugh when I say this, NBA Live 95, 96, like every game was a different hair color. You just were curious when you play with the Spurs, what hair color he was going to be.
NBA Live.
We always tried to draw. I always tried to draw the red hair.
Exactly.
One of my best friends in high school was my college roommate. He and we don't get a chance to talk much. Now we both got families and we're both doing our thing. Mike Dellinger is the biggest. I don't even remember Mike or not, Chad.
Yeah, man. And went to church together growing up.
Yeah, Mike is like the world's
Miami fan, right?
Mike is the world's Big Canes is the world's biggest, or at least he was the world's biggest Dennis Rodman fan. And we used to play NBA Live 96 in his basement for what seemed like hours. I know we all kind of grandiose our own childhood.
Our parents were at Bonanzas.
It was just like it's just what we did.
Dewey Louie with his little sister. We were the same age too. See?
Yeah, it's just what we did, and but it was all about the. Obviously, Ron was about the swag, but just Mike always talked at the time about how hard he played.
I always worried he was going to be a distraction. And really, you look back at it, and he wasn't completely a distraction. I mean, we're going to find out tonight. I think there was a story, and it's going to come out just because I was reading it. We have plenty of time here with a quarantine going on, so we got to read online articles constantly.
Yeah.
But evidently, Scotty decided to come back, and Dennis was pissed, like just not having it. So he wants to take a vacation in like the middle of the season, and he's just going to go to Vegas.
Vegas.
Right? So Phil, who does Phil call? He calls Michael up, and he's like, "You got to get in here now. We got to get Dennis under control." So Mike asked Phil, like, "How long do you need?" He's like, "I need 48 hours." He's like, "Man, if I send Dennis to Vegas for 48 hours, he ain't never coming back."
Nope.
Obviously, we know the end story. He did come back, but that just shows you how much Phil had to lean on Michael on the backside too, which I know at Williamsport you've done this, and obviously at South I've done this. You start leaning on certain kids to run your locker room or at least help you run the locker room and kind of get guys' minds right. And I think it's going to be pretty cool to see how that works tonight when you got two Hall of Famers by a Hall of Fame coach. They all have to kind of work together to figure out how to get to the end unit.
Yeah, and right now we've got a couple of those kids in the program, Williamsport, where it's us coaches, we talk, we come out of the coach's office, and, I could just walk through the locker room and so is washing their hands at the sink. And it's, hey, come here a second. This needs to happen. Can you take care of it? And the answer is, yes, sir, we'll take care of it. And, that's it's awesome when that happens.
Yeah, it is. It's a rewarding feeling, actually, as a coach, because then you know that they're not that just they're bought in, but you got the guys that they're getting ready to go talk to that listen to them are bought in as well. It's just a different feeling.
Greg, let's go back to the draft for a minute or two. What were some things this year's draft taught you that maybe other years hadn't in regards to, you've coached forever, youth baseball, and you coached football at Clear Spring for a number of years, and you had a chance to, join the staff with us at Williamsport this past year and going to continue for next year. How did your perspectives change a little bit, just with the experiences you're getting to have now in regards to what you saw?
As far as the draft goes?
Yeah, was there anything else that you were able to see from a different lens that maybe a couple of years ago you weren't looking at?
I was, I was shocked at how not easy, but, it shows how much work goes into, but yet at the end of the day, everything is so simple. Like, how could these guys, Bill Belichick, his dog's sitting at the dining room table, and the Patriots are making a pick. That just goes to show it's the little things. If you do the little things right, it all comes back down to the little things. Chad, it's all about the little things. Basketball is all about the fundamentals. If you don't have the fundamentals, you don't have anything. Football, I know the offensive line, defensive line, it's all about the fundamentals. So it's like, I feel like this draft was so much different, but yet moving forward, I feel like they almost want to do it this way because it was so much better for those involved and so much easier for those involved. It just went back to the little things, and that's how I feel. I don't know.
I kind of felt like I was a part of the draft. Like, it was personal. Like, you're in the living room watching guys put their hats on and hug mom and grandma and, raw emotions come out. Like, that's pretty interesting and pretty cool to me because not a lot of people get to see those. You get tidbits here and there. Like, I think the one guy for the Seahawks 2 years ago got drafted and he's crying on the other end of the phone and asked Pete Carroll, why'd y'all wait so long? We got to kind of see that this year, which was pretty cool.
Joe Burrow got Buffalo Wild Wings for dinner. They got Buffalo Wild Wings for takeout last night, or that Friday night. We could have done the same exact thing.
Well, right. And I don't know if you guys are experiencing this too, and I think the draft is a big piece of that with all of this change in the last 2 months, really, in this kind of slowdown of life, obviously it's a great opportunity to connect with the people that you care about. That, I know I just have less to do during the day. I have my day job, and, obviously when you teach, you coach, your life doesn't necessarily, there's no 8:30 to 4 window. It's not what you do, it's who you are. But like, I'm hoping that the NFL and maybe some other organizations at that level, we talk about how the draft has become so commercialized, that they remember what individualized this process a little bit. Like, I know some people are like, oh my God, I've got my 30th Zoom meeting this week. Well, I know some of the coaching clinic stuff that is now available in Zoom throughout this time period and social media. Like, I'm more accessible. Like, I'm on a Zoom the other day with Mac Brown from North Carolina. Now, Mac Brown does not have an individual conversation with me, but I was there. I was there though. It wasn't like, this isn't me down at the facilities at Chapel Hill in a invitation room only and listening to him talk. Like, I'm on my computer screen, potentially, could interact with Mac Brown if I wanted to. I could have raised my hand. Hey, Mac, I got a question. He would have answered it. So there's a part of this new way of life, and it's going to be, really interesting to see how maybe some things change going forward. And, is this a blip, or is this, everybody kind of, oh my God, this stinks. This is different. And there's some parts to me where, and maybe it's just like growth mindset piece. Growth mindset piece. There's a piece of this where I like it in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too. I mean, I've sat on a couple Zooms this past week, and ironically, a funny name to throw out there is Rick Pitino. I mean, Pitino was putting up zone sets on a whiteboard, and you have a guy from LaSalle, a coach from LaSalle who's up there, and their head coach just won a national championship with Villanova a couple years ago. So the University of Maryland Dobo was on there, got to connect with him. So you're right, Tim, you're able to go sit in a room that you would never otherwise get in, and you can ask questions and all that stuff, which is pretty cool. So
I tell you what, guys, how about we simplify things here and take the next 2 hours and enjoy the next episodes 3 and 4, The Last Dance. It's been fun, though.
It has been. Look forward to catching up after these guys are done here earlier this part of the week, and we'll do a little recap.
Yeah, want to give a huge shout out to all of you guys who've been watching online and following us on social media.
Thank you.
No technical difficulties today, so appreciate you guys. And if you ever have any questions, hopefully we can be a little more interactive in the future. But thanks a lot.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good time.